Hey guys, I'm Karan Dani from Mobi Scrub, and in this video we're going to unbox and review quickly the Samsung Galaxy J5 2016. Now they've been out with the J5 and the J7 prior to this year as well, and they're now back with the second edition or the 2016 edition. Now if you look at it, it's got the S-Bike mode, which it released in the J3 2016, and they're back with it in the J5 and the J7 as well. It's got a box price of about $14,990, but I think it's available in the market for $13,990. Now, this is a dual SIM 4G enabled device. It's got a 1.2 GHz quad core processor. It's got a 13 megapixel camera, and it's got a front facing LED flash. So, all of your selfies are going to be bright and nice. And even if you're in complete darkness, you can take pictures. So let's go ahead and open this. I did try opening it at first, but then it's just a little difficult. But anyway, so let's go ahead and there you go. That's the unit right over there, the J5. It's metal, it's Super AMOLED, and 13 megapixel camera. Okay, so let's just quickly dive into the box, and I don't really expect a lot of surprises there. You've got your quick start guide. You've got the standard earplugs. I mean, these are not as premium as you see with the Galaxy S7 or the S7 Edge. They're really nice. These ones are just about okay. Then you've got your standard wall charger. This is not a fast charger, so you're not going to get adaptive fast charging on this device. Your standard USB 2.0 data syncing and charging cable, and then you've got the battery, and not sure what the capacity is, but we'll talk about that right after. Now let's go ahead and talk about the device. First impressions, it feels very good in your hand because of its size. It's very convenient, I think. Just like, how I feel with the S6. Well, of course, it's not as premium in its quality, but it's still pretty good and it feels great. It's running a 1.2 gigahertz quad-core processor with 2 GB of RAM, and it's got 16 GB internal memory, but a microSD card storage slot, and you can put in a 128 GB card in there. You've got a 13 megapixel camera with full HD video recording, and you've got a front-facing camera which is 5 megapixel, and it's got a flashlight in the front as well. Now, since we have battery separately, it means it's got a removable back, and indeed it does. The back panel, however, it's plastic, but it does give you a very nice brushed metal kind of touch, and that really adds to a lot of a good grip, and it's not slippery at all, which could be the case with glass-based rear panels. But anyway, so that's that. Let's keep that aside. The battery is 3,100 milliampere hours. The J7 comes with a 3,300 milliampere hour battery, and then you've got your two SIM card slots, and you've got the microSD card slot right over there, which is 128 GB. All right, so now let's just cover the device back up and switch it on, and let's talk a little bit more about the device. So let's power this thing on, and it's a first time boot, so it's going to take a little while. Let me give you a tour around the device. At the bottom, you've got your USB 2.0 data syncing and charging port. On the right edge, you've got nothing but the power and lock key. On the top, you've got nothing but a Qualcomm sticker, which you can remove, obviously. And on the left edge, you've got your volume rockers. Now, what I really like about the device is that it's just 8.1 millimeters thick, which is, I think, quite optimum for a device thickness. On the right, I mean, if you just look at the edges, they're very nicely styled. You've got these edge which are ending in that kind of a diamond cut, which I think looks amazing. Quite lightweight, just about 150 grams, I think. Maybe 158 grams, I don't remember. Very nicely sized, and there's going to be absolutely no issues when it comes to using this phone with just one hand. After all, it's just 5.2 inches of display, which is very, very manageable. And again, just emphasizing on the way the edges look, I just can't get over it. For a mid-range smartphone, I think both J5 and the J7 look amazing. Now, just to give you a quick comparison between the J5 and the J7, you can see that the J7 looks like the dad, and the J5 looks like the son. And of course, the J7 is not as easy to handle using a single hand, whereas the J5 is very, very convenient to hold and use. The difference is quite significant, actually, and the price difference is just about 2,000. So if the big screen does not matter to you much, if it's not going to bother you, definitely go for the J7 over the J5. So let's talk about the software side of things. The J5 is running Android 6.0.1 Marshmallow. Not sure if it is going to receive the Android N upgrade. You've got your capacitive keys. You've got the home button, which does not double as the fingerprint sensor. Slide to unlock, and you look at the interface, which is TouchWiz. The good thing about Android phones is that when you go from an older phone to a newer Android phone, you can pretty much tell Google when you log in with your ID that you want it to replicate just exactly what your old phone was like. So if you've got all your apps, just kind of select the phone that you had, and it'll replicate all the apps. You can also copy content from your old device to your new device using the Smart Switch app. Just make sure both the phones have it installed. Now, from the notification panel and the setting toggles you'd see is exactly like we saw in the Galaxy S7 and the S7 Edge. So, it's pretty much running the same version of Samsung's interface. And there you go, Android 6.0.1 Marshmallow, just for proof's sake. 16 GB internal memory, and you've got about 10.76 GB of user available memory. And in terms of features, you've got ultra data saving, you've got S-Bike mode, and ultra power saving. Other than that, everything else is pretty much standard across Android phones. In terms of performance, you'd see that it's pretty fast when it comes to a mid-range smartphone. It's got a quad-core processor and 2 GB RAM, but you'd see that it loads websites fairly quickly once it makes contact with the website host. In terms of launching and switching between apps, damn fast. I mean, it's almost amazing that for a mid-range smartphone, it can actually work that quick. That was the first time I launched the camera. Maybe that's why. But anyway, you can see that it's quite fast otherwise, and no complaints whatsoever. The J5 has a 5.2-inch display with a resolution of 720 by 1280 pixels. So it is an HD screen. It's just that it's not full HD. And it's Super AMOLED, so the colors are really nice. They're vivid, they're punchy. You've got very wide viewing angles. And the screen is pretty bright as well. So just to kind of show you how bright and how colorful it is, just enable the outdoor mode and you'd see that the screen just goes into super brightness mode. And trust me, I've used Super AMOLED displays for over maybe 4-5 years now. In bright outdoor sunlight, reading is almost never an issue. And it's not going to be the case even with this device. And you can just have a look at the colors. They're quite nice. Now, it's a decently sized 5.2-inch screen, so playing games and watching videos is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm playing Chameleon Run on this smartphone right now. Now, although it runs fairly properly and there's no issue in terms of no crashes, nothing, it's just that it's not as smooth as I'd expect it to be. And that's all right, because it is a mid-range smartphone. It's not the most powerful phone out there, but the fact that it can play Chameleon Run is pretty commendable in itself. Now, I also ran the Antutu benchmark, which is a performance software that measures the performance of a smartphone and compares it to other smartphones in the market. Now, this is running a 1.2 GHz quad-core processor with 2 GB of RAM, which is again in the mid-range strata of Samsung smartphones. Comparing it to the J7, there is a significant difference, and that's because J7 is running an octa-core processor as compared to the J5. Now let's talk about the camera. So you can double tap the home screen to quickly launch the camera from anywhere, irrespective of which app you're on. The shutter speed is fairly quick. It does take a little tad bit of a time to focus, but once it is focused, it immediately takes the picture. It does have a couple of modes, and I think you can download more if you want, but I don't see the option here. Anyway, you can go to the Pro mode, and where you can play with the white balance, the exposure, and the ISO levels, which are pretty much the standard things. But I would always advise you to kind of use the auto mode to take the best picture. But yes, of course, you can always change the fluorescence, which is the white balance, and sort of get some effects. Now, if you go into settings, you'd see that the device is capable of full HD video recording at 30 frames per second. You can lower it down to HD as well. You can set your volume buttons to take photos or, zoom in or zoom out. Change it to 9.6M if you want to take wide photos. So you see it kind of covers and fills your entire screen as opposed to a 4:3 ratio. It's a 16:9 display, so it's good to have wide shots. And then you've got about 3 extra filters, which is not a lot, but you can always download a third-party app like Retrica. Now, coming to the S-Bike mode, this is an NFC sticker that you put on your bike to enable the S-Bike mode, or you could just use the power button to go into the S-Bike mode. So here's what happens. If this is stuck to some place on your bike or your scooter, just tap the phone and the S-Bike mode turns on. Now, what does the S-Bike mode do? Well, all incoming calls will be answered automatically, and callers will be asked to press 1 if their call is urgent. Otherwise, you won't even be notified. Now, you will not be allowed to use your device while you're writing. And again, you can also turn on smart reply, and you can choose a few contacts. So if they call, they actually get a message back saying how long will you take to reach. Overall, I feel the Galaxy J5 is a decent performer. It's got a 1.2 gigahertz quad-core processor, 2 GB of RAM, which is quite impressive. It's got a 13 megapixel camera. The front-facing LED flash is actually quite impressive. It's the world of selfies, and you can almost never get a dark one with that. Very decently sized, and I think it just fits the bill right. Thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video.